You know those big goals we all have? The ones that get you super excited but also kind of terrified? Well, what happens when that fear of failure just stops you dead in your tracks? Today, we're going to dig into this amazing exercise that's designed to completely shatter that paralysis. It's all about turning your fear into an actual blueprint for action.
Man, the philosopher Seneca really hit the nail on the head with this one, didn't he? And this was thousands of years ago. It's so true. The fears we cook up in our heads, all those crazy what-if scenarios, they're almost always way worse than anything that would happen in reality. Our imagination, it's an incredible tool for sure. But man, it can also be our absolute biggest roadblock.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to look at why big goals can sometimes freeze us. Then I'll introduce you to fear setting. We'll go through the simple 3-step exercise, check out some surprising benefits, and then we'll tackle the real cost of just doing nothing.
Okay, let's get right into it. The paralysis of ambition. You know that feeling, right? It's so frustrating. The bigger and more exciting your goal is, like starting a new business or totally changing careers, the more likely you are to feel completely and utterly stuck. And everyone tells you, oh, just think positive. But let's be real, that almost never works to calm down that deep, nagging anxiety about what might go wrong.
So we all get goal setting, right? You focus on what you want to achieve, you visualize success. Pretty standard stuff. Well, fear setting, it completely flips that script on its head. Instead of just dreaming about success, you get really specific about what you're afraid of. I know, it sounds kind of weird, but it's this incredibly powerful approach that forces you to look your obstacles right in the eye.
And that, right there, brings us to the solution, fear setting. Think of it as the antidote to that question that just plays on a loop in your brain. What if? What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if the whole thing is a disaster? Fear setting is a tool that gives you a real, concrete way to finally answer those questions, instead of just letting them spin around in your head.
Okay, so what is this thing, really? Well, it's a super tactical exercise. This isn't just about worrying. We're all good at that. No, this is about systematically taking your fears apart, piece by piece. And the real key here is to visualize the absolute worst-case scenario, but not with that general, fuzzy sense of dread. You're going to get down to the nitty-gritty, meticulous details.
And here's the simple reason why this works so well. An undefined fear is an unmanageable fear. It's like a monster hiding in a dark closet, right? It seems huge and terrifying when it's just a shapeless shadow. But the second you flick on the light, the second you actually define what it is you're afraid of, it shrinks. It's not a monster anymore. It's just a problem. And problems can be solved.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. This is the practical part, the actual framework for action. This is how you do fear setting. And don't worry, it's a super simple 3-step process.
The steps are really easy to remember. It's just define, prevent, and repair. So first you define it. You give that scary, vague fear a name and a shape. Then you figure out how to prevent it. You brainstorm all the ways you could stop it from actually happening. And finally, repair. You think, okay, if the absolute worst does happen, how would I get back on my feet?
And this is basically the whole thing, right here. You just grab a piece of paper and make 3 columns. In that first column, what's the worst that could happen? You get super specific, no holding back. Write down every terrible detail of your worst-case scenario. What does failure actually look like? Then, in the middle column, what could I do to prevent it? You start brainstorming. What little things could you do right now to make sure that worst case doesn't happen? And finally, the third column. How can I repair it? If it all goes wrong, what's the plan? Who could you call for help? What would be the very first step you'd take to fix things? You see? By the time you're done, that massive, scary fear has turned into a simple, actionable plan.
Now, what's really cool is that doing this exercise is about so much more than just getting unstuck on one single decision. It actually creates these powerful ripple effects that can change how you look at challenges altogether. For starters, it builds some serious resilience and confidence. I mean, once you've looked your absolute worst fear right in the eye and realized you've got a plan to handle it, well, that panic just melts away. It gets replaced by a feeling of preparedness. You start identifying all these practical backup plans. But maybe the biggest aha moment is when you realize the worst case is almost always survivable. It's never as bad or as permanent as you imagined. And that brings this incredible sense of clarity and peace of mind.
Okay, so we've spent all this time digging into the risks of doing something. But what about the other side of that coin? What's the real risk of doing nothing at all? What happens if you just let the fear win and stay right where you are?
And this brings us to what might be the most important point of this whole thing, the true cost of inaction. It's something we almost never stop to actually calculate, but that cost, it's often the most certain and honestly the most devastating one there is. We have to really measure the weight of just waiting.
And just look at how this cost snowballs over time. Let's say you wait 6 months. Your confidence starts to fade, maybe that window of opportunity starts to close a little. Now fast forward a year. That little bit of doubt has turned into real regret, and staying put has become your new normal. It's even harder to change. And then you hit 3 years, and we're talking about a massive, permanent loss of potential, of growth, of fulfillment. That weight of waiting, it is absolutely real.
So this completely reframes how we should think about risk, doesn't it? The risk of inaction, what we think of as the safe option, is usually a slow, quiet, but certain failure. But the risk of action, yeah, it might be a temporary setback, it might be a stumble, but it almost always comes with a huge chance of growth and learning.
So I'll leave you with this question. What's that one fear you're going to define today? Just one, the one that's been holding you back. Can you take just 5 minutes to put it down on paper? It's time to stop just imagining the worst and actually start planning your next move.